The first time I saw Patricia Sloan in a courtroom, she was still wearing that smug little smile like the place was her personal conference room. 3 minutes later, the judge was staring her down like she'd just tracked mud onto the bench. And when the bailiff stepped forward, Patricia finally realized she'd been bullying the wrong person. It started way more boring than that, which is honestly how most nightmares begin. I'm Ethan Carter. I work remote, IT support, and all I wanted was a quiet little cabin on a couple of lots at the edge of a neighborhood called Maple Ridge Estates. Not a mansion, not some rental party house. Just a small place where I could shut my laptop grill, something questionable, and listen to actual silence for once. I did the responsible thing title search county records permits, the whole adult checklist I usually ignore. And the big detail that mattered, my lots were outside the homeowners association boundary. No HOA, no dues, no architectural committee, no approved shades of beige. That was the entire point. The day the first lumber showed up, I'm standing there with my contractor Randy Collins talking about where the porch should face. Then I feel it, that thing where you know you're being watched. Across the road, a woman in oversized sunglasses is parked like she's on a stakeout. Phone up, snapping photos, zooming in on my permit sign like she's trying to catch it committing a crime. Randy leans close and goes, that's Patricia. He says it the way you say, that's the neighbor who calls the cops on thunderstorms. I give a little wave because I'm still naive at this point. She doesn't wave back. She just angles her phone like she's documenting evidence for a trial that hasn't happened yet. 2 days later, I get my first letter. Not from the county, no. This one had a bold logo and the kind of font that screams we have a board meeting. Maple Ridge Homeowners Association, Notice of Non-Compliance. I read it twice, waiting for the punchline. It said I needed to submit design plans for approval pay fees and stop unauthorized construction activity. Unauthorized. On my property. With county permits taped to a post. I actually laughed like a short little cough laugh and tossed it on the kitchen counter. Then the second letter came. Then the third. And one morning I drive out and there's a bright orange sticker slapped on my permit sign like someone tagged my work with a warning label. At that point I call the number because I'm thinking, okay, someone's confused. This is a mix-up. I'll be polite. We'll all move on. A receptionist named Tina answers like she's annoyed I exist, transfers me, and then I hear Patricia's voice for the first time. It's calm. Too calm. Like customer service. If customer service hated you. I say, ma'am, I think you've got the wrong address. My lots aren't in the HOA, and she doesn't even pause. She goes, you're building next to our community. That means your choices affect our property values. Like she's reading it off a script she wrote herself. I tell her that's not how boundaries work, and she says, this is word for word. In Maple Ridge, we keep standards. If you want to live near us, you follow them. Then she adds soft and sweet, otherwise, we'll have to take steps. Steps. The way she said it made my skin crawl a little because it wasn't a threat like a normal person would do. It was the kind of threat where they think they're doing you a favor. After that, it turned into a steady drip of nonsense. Dust violation, noise violation, construction debris visible from street. One time, they cited me for unsightly materials because, no joke, I had a stack of lumber under a tarp. I'm reading these letters at night like they're junk mail from a parallel universe, and I keep thinking there's no way this is real. People can't just pretend they govern you. But it didn't feel pretend when a guy I'd never met walked onto my property wearing a polo shirt with the HOA logo and started taking measurements. I step outside and go, hey, what are you doing? He doesn't even look embarrassed. He just says, inspection, like it's the most normal word in the world. I tell him to leave. He shrugs, and 2 days later I get another letter saying I refused compliance, like I was supposed to stand there and salute. The powerless part isn't one big dramatic moment. It's a bunch of small moments where you realize you're spending your time arguing with someone who has more free time than morals. Then the lawsuit showed up. A thick envelope. Official court stamp. My name typed out like I'd done something criminal. I stood in my kitchen holding it, and it felt heavier than paper should. Patricia was suing me to force mandatory association membership back dues and an injunction to stop construction until I complied with community standards. I'm not proud of this, but I just sat down on the floor, not in a movie way, in a my brain can't pick the next action way. Because you hear about stuff like this online, HOA horror stories, people getting fined for grass being half an inch too tall. But it hits different when it's your mailbox and your name and your money. That week, I started doing math I didn't want to do. Lawyer fees, permit timelines, contractor delays. The kind of math that turns your stomach because none of the numbers end in zero. And yeah, there was just one night where I stared at the letters spread out on my table and thought maybe I should just pay something and make her go away. Not because I was wrong, because I was tired. It wasn't some deep identity crisis, it was simple, ugly exhaustion. Like how much is peace worth if someone's selling it back to you? The next morning I drove out to the lots and Patricia was already there, parked sideways, blocking part of the entrance like she owned the dirt. She steps out wearing a blazer in the middle of a work site, because of course she does, and she's holding a clipboard like it's a weapon. She points at my framing and goes, "That roofline is not consistent with Maple Ridge aesthetics." I blink at her. "You mean a roof?" She doesn't laugh. She never laughs. "We have a look here. You're lowering values." I say, "My property is not in your HOA. You don't get to tell me what to build." She tilts her head like I'm a child refusing vegetables. "You can either cooperate or you can keep making this expensive for yourself." Then she leans closer and says, almost cheerful, "I always win these." I watched her get back into her SUV like she'd just handed me a helpful tip, and something in me shifted from hurt to angry. Not screaming angry, clear angry. Because it wasn't about a roofline, it was about control. She wanted me to kneel. That's when Gary Bennett showed up. Gary's the retired guy who lives a couple streets over, the kind of neighbor who actually knows everyone's name and still waves. He had this careful look on his face like he didn't want to get dragged into drama but couldn't watch it happen. He says, "You're the cabin guy, right?" I nod. He glances around, then quietly goes, "She's done this before. She targets people who aren't plugged into the neighborhood, and she counts on them folding." Gary pulls out his phone and shows me screenshots, group messages, people complaining about surprise fines, threats, liens that almost happened. Lots of, "I don't want trouble and just pay it, and she's friends with the board." And Gary says, "Look, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you don't push back, she'll do it forever." That's the moment that got me off the floor mentally. Not some heroic speech, just the reality that this wasn't only about me, it was a pattern. So I hired a lawyer. His name was Samuel Pierce, and he had the calm, tired face of a man who's seen 1,000 dumb fights become expensive ones. I hand him my deed, the county boundary map, the permits, all of it. He studies it, then looks up and says, "You're outside the association." He taps the map, clean and clear. I exhale like I've been holding my breath for weeks. Then he adds, "That doesn't mean she won't try. It means she'll lose if we do this right." So we did it right. I stopped tossing letters on the counter and started filing them. Dates, times, photos. I logged every visit, every sticker on my sign, every time someone from the HOA stepped on my property. I kept it boring on purpose, because boring wins in court. Court day comes and Maple Ridge residents are there like it's entertainment. Patricia's in the front binder, thick enough to qualify as furniture, whispering to her attorney like she's running the show. When it's her turn, her lawyer talks about community harmony and shared responsibility. Patricia nods along, satisfied, like she's watching someone praise her at an award ceremony. Then Samuel stands up. He doesn't get dramatic. He just walks to the front, lays out the county boundary map, the deed, the legal description, and slides them toward the judge one by one. He explains in plain English that the HOA has no jurisdiction over my lot's none. The judge, Robert Lang, silver hair glasses perched low, leans forward and asks Patricia's attorney, "Counsel, can you point to any legal authority giving your client power over property outside the association?" There's a pause. Not a comfortable pause. The kind where you can hear someone in the back shift in their seat. Patricia can't help herself. She stands up without being invited, and she says, "He's right next to us. He's affecting us. It's common sense." Judge Lang looks at her like she just interrupted traffic with a shopping cart. "Ma'am, sit down." She doesn't. She actually gestures toward me, sharp accusing. He refused inspection. He refused standards. He's hostile. Samuel doesn't even flinch. "Your Honor, we have their notices, their fines, and their attempt to impose dues on property not subject to their covenants." Judge Lang flips through the documents, then looks back at Patricia. You filed this lawsuit knowing you had no authority over this property. Patricia's jaw tightens. We enforce standards. That's our job. The judge's voice gets colder. No. Your job is to govern within your legal boundary. This court is not your enforcement arm. Patricia opens her mouth again and the judge cuts her off. I'm dismissing this, and I'm issuing sanctions for abuse of process. Patricia actually scoffs, and says, "This is ridiculous." That's when Judge Lang's eyes sharpen. One more outburst and you will be held in contempt. She tries to talk over him, like she does in the neighborhood, like she does to everyone. The judge turns his head slightly. Bailiff. And just like that, the room changes. The bailiff steps forward and Patricia finally understands that this isn't a board meeting. There's no gavel she controls here. Her binder slips off her lap papers, fluttering to the floor. She stutters something about rights and standards and property values, but it's too late. The last thing I remember is the sound of the judge's gavel, one clean hit, then the quiet, heavy footsteps as Patricia's control evaporated in real time. Some people think power is loud, but real power is a boundary you can't bully your way across.